Have you ever been to Mass and been bored? Welcome back to God Nod. My name is Casey, and I share videos to bear witness that life with Christ is a joyful one. And I do that by sharing my God Nods, or I do random videos like this. So, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, hit that little bell button, do all the stuff, share it to your friends, especially this video. This video is gonna be good, because it's about the Mass. See, the Mass, the Last Supper? Pretty cool, huh? So my question for you is, have you ever been to Mass and been bored? Or have you ever been sitting in the pew thinking, I want this to be over. I can't wait until I can go home and sleep, or whatever you want to do. Has it happened before? Or maybe it happens every time. I know for me personally, especially when I was younger, I thought Mass was
super boring.
Super boring. I literally remember sitting there in the pew and tugging on my mom's arm and saying Mom, how many more songs left until we go home? And I didn't only have that attitude just when I was a little kid. I had this attitude through most of high school too. I would just sit there and think, oh, gotta go to Mass again. Oh, okay, now I gotta go. There's be times where I'd enjoy it, but most of the time it wasn't very enjoyable. You know what I'm saying? Do you relate to me? But then something happened in my life where I just completely fell in love with the Lord, and then Mass became one of the best gifts I've ever received. So I'm going to share with you how I went from Mass being so boring to me to it being the highlight of my life. So when I was in high school, I went on this retreat called Lead, and one of the missionaries that was on that week-long retreat with me said, whenever you have the chance to go to Mass, just go. Just go. No matter what, just go. And at this time, I still kind of felt like Mass was boring, and it was more of a obligation, oh, I just have to go to Sunday Mass kind of thing. But this one little command from this guy, this one little phrase of just whenever you get the chance, just go, no matter what, even daily Mass, anything like that, it stuck with me. And I remember getting home from the retreat, and I just took that to heart. It was haunting me. Anytime I'm oh, I could go to Mass this morning, but I don't want to. And that little phrase would come to my mind. And I'm dang it, I should just go. I should go, because why not? And so I would just keep going to daily Mass because of this one phrase that just kept haunting me. And it was through daily Mass where I learned to fall in love with the Lord through the Eucharist. Through going to daily Mass, Jesus completely changed my heart. I started seeing the Eucharist as truly Him, and I started receiving these graces I've never experienced before. And that is what gave me the grace to just keep going back, no matter how many sacrifices or what I'd have to do in order to get there. So that summer, I had a job that I had to be at work at 7:30. Well, I found a Mass that was at 6:30, and so I went there because I knew that daily Mass was just so worth it. I don't know, guys, Jesus just completely changed my heart from not wanting to go to making sacrifices to go every day. So I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks that I do to help make Mass not so boring. One thing I want to say, during this COVID time, this social distancing time, we've had, a lot of us haven't been able to go to Mass for 2 to 3 months or more. And so what I want you to reflect on is, what has been your attitude during this time? Has it been a, woohoo, this is so nice, watching Mass on TV and just sitting back in my couch and sipping my coffee, this is so nice, I'd love this to be every Sunday? Or has your heart been aching to receive the Eucharist again? Have you been just almost in tears because you just miss receiving Jesus so much? So, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying reflect on your attitude towards the Eucharist in this time of social distancing, of this time of not being able to receive Him during this time. And I want you to do this because I think this will show, I think your attitude towards the Mass during this time will show your relationship with Jesus through the Eucharist. It will start to reveal within your heart if you truly believe that the Eucharist is Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity, or if you just kind of think it's symbolic. And now Mass is starting to open back up to the public. And I thought, you know what? This is the time. This is the time for our church to finally come alive. This is the time where we drop the attitudes of like, oh, well, we just go because it's, what we have to do, or it's just what we've always done. Like, this is the time where we drop that attitude and we go to Mass to receive Jesus for the very sake of worshiping God. This is the time where we worship like never before. The time where we don't allow Mass to be born anymore because we are giving it our all. The time where we stop wishing Mass to be over. The time where we stop leaving early. The time where we see the Mass as the greatest gift that Jesus has ever given us. Whew. Breathe, Casey. Okay. Question. Why does Mass get boring sometimes? You might think, oh, well, because it's routine and it's old and it's tradition and there's not a lot going on. That's not the answer, in case you're wondering. No, the answer is because Mass is boring because we make it about us. What I mean by that is we go expecting someone to do something for us rather than us going, giving all we have to Christ. Now, it's good. I think it's good that we expect a good homily and we expect a great choir and, whatever, but that can't be our primary focus. We know we're going to Mass primarily for us when we get disappointed that the priest didn't give a good homily, when the lady behind us is singing crazy and is annoying us, when the choir sounds like a funeral ceremony. When we get disappointed at those things, that's when we know that we're not going to Mass for the right reasons. Yes, our homilies are supposed to be good. We are supposed to get something out of them. But remember, God doesn't speak to all of our hearts the same way. Do you ever remember a time where a homily was spoken and you're like, whoa, I think God's talking to me. Like that was for me, right? Okay. Maybe during a time where you think a homily from a priest was really bad and you're like, wow, I didn't get anything from that. Maybe God was using that to hit someone else's heart. Okay, so basically the overall thing of why Mass becomes boring for us is because we go for the wrong reasons, because we go because that's just what we've always done, because we expect something to be given to us. That's why Mass can become boring and meaningless to us. So moving on, how do we do this? How do we not let Mass be boring anymore? The secret, worship. That's it. Just worship. You see, because Mass is not about us, Mass is about God. It's about us worshiping Him with our whole being, because He deserves it. He's God. So if you worship God with your whole being during Mass, I promise you that you will not be bored. And by worship, I mean truly worship Him. It's, that phrase of what you put in is what you're going to get out. It's the same with Mass. If you give your whole self to God in the Mass, He's going to give you so much more back. You have to put an effort in the Mass, and that's when you start receiving amazing gifts. And when we do this, you will also experience what I experienced, from going to, hey Mom, how many songs until we can get out of here, to, oh my gosh, I never want to leave this place. And this change only happens because of God's grace. Because when we open ourselves up, He just pours down His graces and blessings upon us. And that is how we were able to make this dramatic switch from being to wanting to leave to never wanting to leave. It's when we turn our mind, we turn our attitude into not about receiving things, but we turn it into giving ourselves. That is when we receive an abundance. God is so, so generous. The more we give to Him, the 100-fold He's going to give to us. We cannot out-generous God. He's always going to give you more than you give Him. There's a cool quote going around. I don't know who says it, but it says from God, open your mouth wide and I will fill it. So when we go to Mass and we just give it our things, everything, and we open our mouth wide open, He is going to stuff our faces with so much joy and grace. So, y'all, if you think Mass is boring, open your mouth. Metaphorically and physically, to receive the communion. Sometimes when I give it my all, I will be so overwhelmed by God's presence that I will just start tearing up and sometimes kind of start bawling my eyes out because I'm just so overwhelmed by the Lord's presence. And my family knows this about me. My family will be like, oh, Casey's crying again. What's wrong with her? And I'm like, no, it's good. Just leave me alone. I'm just having my moment with the Lord kind of thing. But it's when I cry, I am just so mesmerized by the Lord. And it's funny. It's a funny story. So there was this one time where I couldn't control myself because I was so overwhelmed by the Lord's presence, and I was just sobbing in mass, just crying and crying. And you know how, some churches have little rooms off to the side for mothers who have crying babies or whatever. So my mom and dad look at each other gosh, what's wrong with her kind of thing. And they look at me and they tap me on the shoulder, and I forget if it was my mom or dad, but they pointed to the room and it says on it, cry room. And I just started busting out laughing because here my parents are do you need to go over there, to the cry room? Yeah. And I'm not saying you're supposed to cry because you're so overwhelmed. That's just how the Holy Spirit touches me. For other people, they are completely at peace. Other people, they just start laughing. But what I'm saying is if we worship with all we have, we open ourselves up to receiving more of God's graces. Okay, now I'm getting to the part you've all been waiting for, the tips and tricks on what to practically do to not let Mass be boring. Now, just as a disclaimer, what I'm about to share are not things that you need to do or you're supposed to do. I mean, maybe some of them, but I'm just sharing things that have been fruitful for me that might be fruitful for you to fully worship the Lord. Okay, I have 16 tips broken up into 4 different categories: prior, prepare, participate, and praise. So the first one is prior to Mass. Number 1, see the Mass as a gift. If we see the Mass as something we have to do, it becomes like a chore, and it's oh, I have to go to Mass today. But if we see it as a gift and we're I get to go and I'm excited about it, that's already preparing your heart in a really good way. Number 2, dress up. You're gonna go receive a king. You are receiving Jesus. So do what's appropriate. Go and dress up to receive Jesus. If you're gonna go to a castle and meet a king, you're not gonna show up in your shorts and t-shirt. You're just not. So don't treat it any different. Dress up, put a dress on, do your hair, wear something nice, because it shows reverence to the Lord. And people might say, oh, well, Jesus loves me in my shirt and t-shirt. Yeah, Jesus loves you no matter what you do. But it's not about you. It's about giving the Lord the proper worship and honor. And for me, when I dress up, I don't really dress up all the time. Very rarely, really. But when I dress up and I put on my nice clothes or whatever, and I'm sitting in Mass, it tells my body this is something important is going on here. This isn't just an everyday normal kind of thing. Something important, something sacred, something holy is going on. Number 3, read the Mass readings prior. Super cool. I see families Friday night dinner, they read the Mass readings together for that following Saturday night or Sunday morning. So then when they go to Mass, it is just so much more meaningful because they know what's about to happen. But when the priest reads the gospel, the Lord can speak through it in a deeper way. Number 4, show up at least 10 minutes early. This is all about preparing your heart and soul for the Mass. If you rush into Mass, right before the song begins, your whole body, soul, mind, whatever, you're not ready to give yourself to the Lord. So show up 10 minutes early and just simply rest and pray and just be silent with the Lord and ask Him to prepare your heart for the Mass. Number 5, do an examination of conscience. Basically, go through your day, go through your week. Think about all the times that you've done really well for the Lord or the times that you've sinned. Think about these things. And if you haven't gone to confession in a while, go to confession. Confession is not just a thing that we're supposed to do once a year. That's like the bare minimum in order to still be a Catholic that we're supposed to do. Confession, I think we should go at least once a month because confession cleanses our soul. And when our soul is cleansed, we get so many more graces from the Lord when we receive the Eucharist. And so I try to go to confession at least every 2 weeks because I want to receive as much graces as I can from the Lord. So, but when we haven't gone to confession in a while, our heart isn't really fertile. So we're receiving a lot, but we're not producing much. But when we go to confession and we are cleansed from our sins, our heart is very fertile. And when we receive the Eucharist, we produce much and we get to experience the joy of the Lord so much more. Pew Research came out with a study that said 70% of Catholics don't believe that the Eucharist is actually the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. So my question is, are you one of that percent? Sometimes it's hard to believe in the Eucharist, right? But if we believed that Jesus was in the Eucharist, we would do everything we could to receive him. And so going to confession, preparing our hearts, if we truly believe that Jesus was the Eucharist, we would want to receive him most worthy. And so we go to confession to make ourselves worthy of receiving him. Okay, second little saying. So we had prior to Mass, now we have prepare. When we get to Mass, we need to prepare heart, soul, body, and mind to receive the Lord. And so when we get to Mass, just simply kneeling there, sitting there, whatever, and just asking the Lord to prepare ourselves to receive him. Number 7, go to Mass with an intention. It really helps me to every single Mass that I go to offer it up for an intention, whether it be my sick grandma or my friend that's in the hospital, or maybe it's for my friend who's an atheist, or maybe it's a friend reaching out to me for an intention and I offer that up. When you go to Mass with an intention, it helps you worship the Lord so much more. The third little thing, so we have prior to Mass, prepare, and the third one is participate. Participate fully in the Mass. Number 8, sing with all you have. I don't care if you have a bad voice. You're praising the Lord. You're not there for you or anyone around you. You are there for the Lord only. So sing every single song. Sing it with all you have. Number 9, respond when all of the responses happen. Respond like fully, not just like mumbling along, but just like respond with everything you have. Number 10, pray along with the priest. It's not about just like watching the priest do his thing. It is when the priest is praying and doing certain prayers, like we are supposed to be joining him in those prayers. So join with him, pray them in your mind when he speaks them out loud. Number 11, do everything in reverence. Walking into Mass, genuflecting, do it with reverence. After receiving communion and making the sign of the cross, don't do like one of these, like make the sign of the cross. When we are standing, kneeling, sitting, do it all with like great reverence. We are body and soul. We are not just a soul using our body. We are body and soul. And so what we do with our body matters. And so the reason why we have different postures of like sit, stand, kneel, all that crazy stuff that us Catholics get like talked about for, there's a purpose for it. It's because we're body and soul, and what we do with our body helps our soul. And so when we are kneeling, it helps us open ourselves up. It helps us to worship the Lord, which is why we do it. And so if we do all of these things with great reverence, it's going to help our soul pray better. Now this one is hard. Number 12 is don't let your mind drift. This is a tough one because your mind can drift really easily. So whenever you catch yourself like drifting off in your mind, just bring your attention back to the Lord. Number 13, this is something that I've been doing the last like 5 years, and it has been life-changing. Bring a journal with you, bring your Magnificat, bring whatever, and a pen. Write down whatever the priest says that like hits you during the homily. Because when you write it down, it just stays with you. Or if you're not like a huge like write down kind of person, after the Mass, when you get back in your car, think about what the priest said during the homily, think about the readings and what he said, and whatever stood out to you, go tell someone. I know after Mass, when I like go tell my friend, oh my gosh, like this is what I got from the Mass today, I remember it so much more. And the whole point of it is like applying it to our lives. And so the more we reflect on it and the more we remember it, the more we can apply it to our lives. And the last P, praise. Number 14, don't leave Mass early. Don't leave early. We just received Jesus in our very body. Don't leave early. Number 15, thank God for letting you receive him this day. Thank him for coming into your heart and ask him to remain within you and guide you throughout your day. My last tip, number 16, is talk to people. Not during Mass, after Mass, after Mass. Because when we get to know the people around us, we get to know the people in our parish, it makes Mass so much more beautiful. When you know everyone around you, when you're able to join in that communion, in that body of Christ, and worship with your friends and family, that's what makes Mass just so much more special. So after Mass, instead of just running out the doors and back home, just hang out, say hi to people, welcome people that you haven't seen before. Be friendly. Okay, I made it. I finally got there. I'm done. But no, it took a while for me to come to this point of wanting to go to Mass. But it's only by God's grace that I was finally able to get to where I'm at now. And you know what? There's times where I still fail and I still start drifting and I have these down slopes in my faith and I think, gosh, I need to go to Mass today. And there's times I still have that attitude, but I catch myself and I say, Casey, you're not going for the right reasons. You were here to worship. It's not about you. And so I give myself a little pep talk whenever I notice myself starting to go down the spiral of a bad attitude towards Mass. So it's okay to still have this attitude sometimes, but what is important is to catch ourselves and to turn our attention back to Jesus. So if you are one of those people that right now Mass seems boring to you, I want you to know it's okay. But I also want to encourage you to not give up, to go to Mass and to worship with everything you have. And it might take a while for you to start noticing the graces that the Lord has given you, but I'm just saying, don't give up. You keep going and you keep worshiping your all, and you will soon know what I'm talking about of never wanting to leave the Mass. And maybe your family will start pointing you to the cry room too. I don't know. Okay, leaving with 2 challenges. First challenge, take something from these list of tips and tricks and start applying them to your Mass life, if that's a thing. Whether it be one thing, just one step towards the Lord is so good. My second thing is I'm going to give you the same thing that my missionary gave me, and that is to go to Mass any chance you get. A daily Mass, Sunday Mass, well, you're supposed to do that one, but daily Mass, anytime you get a chance to go to Mass, just go. Just go. No matter the sacrifice, no matter what you have to give up, no matter how tired you are, just go. And just watch the Lord just rock your life. No matter how much you don't want to go, just go. So I hope that little phrase haunts you as well as it did me, and it just sticks to you. And when you go, give Jesus permission to work on your heart. That's what I did, and he just transformed my heart in ways that are so unexplainable. So remember to let your love for one another be intense, and remember to be a witness of the wonderful joy of the Lord today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, check out this video that's gonna pop up somewhere on the screen. Welcome back to God Nod. My name is Casey, and I share videos on how but sometimes the Lord is just so crazy